Hi boys and girls. So I was able to grab a whole bunch of my books that are on my top shelf in the classroom, which you guys usually don't have access to. And that's because I saved them for times when I want to read to you. So today's book, which really plain cover, I took the book jacket off. Today's book, and I'm going to read to you, is called All the Places to Love. It's by Patricia MacLachlan, one of my favorite authors. And you'll see she actually signed this book. So it says, to Jeannie, wait, I gotta put my reading glasses on. To Jeannie, best wishes, Patricia MacLachlan. And this book is dedicated, it says, this is for Bill Morris. And that's who the author dedicated to. And the illustrator dedicated it to my grandparents, Jace and Goldie Hambrick, for their 64 years of marriage, which serve as the mortar and that binds my family together. That's like the glue that sticks everybody together. Okay? All right, let's go. On the day I was born, my grandmother wrapped me in a blanket made from the wool of her sheep. I love the pictures in this book, like paintings. She held me in the open window so that what I first heard was the wind. What I saw first were all the places to love. The valley, the river falling down over rocks, the hilltop where the blueberries grew. And see her? Grandma's holding her out so she can see the window. My grandfather was painting the barn, and when he saw me, he cried. He carved my name, Eli, on a rafter beside his name and grandmother's name, and the names of my papa and mama. So that's their family tradition. When somebody's born, they write their names in. So some of them might be hard to see, but there's Eli. Mama carried me on her shoulders before I could walk. Through the meadows and hay fields, the cows watched us and the sheep scattered. The dogs ran ahead, looking back with sly smiles. When the grass was high, only their tails showed. So look, here they're picking flowers. And here, look at the baby. Before the baby can walk, the mom's carrying him on her shoulders. Here's the dogs running along, and you see how the grass is getting high? So when it gets up really high, like they said, you can only see their tails. When I was older, Papa and I plowed the fields. Where else is soil so sweet, he said. Once Papa and I lay down in the field holding hands, and the birds surrounded us. Raucous black crackles, red wings, crows in the dirt that swaggered like pirates. When we left, Papa put a handful of dirt in his pocket, and I did too. And there's the crows. And there's the little boy Eli with his grandpa, just spending time together. I hope that reminds you of times maybe when you spent some special time with your grandparents. My grandmother loved the river best of all the places to love. That sound like a whisper, she said, gathering pools where trout flashed like jewels in the sunlight. Grandmother sailed little bark boats downriver to me with messages. I love you, Eli, one said. So see, she made a little boat. She put a little sign on it, and she would send it down. And I could just imagine Eli down a little bit further on the river waiting to receive it. We jumped from rock to rock to rock, across the river to where the woods began, where bunchberry grew under the pine needle path and trillium bloomed. Under the beech tree was a soft, rounded bed where a deer had slept. The bed was warm when I touched it. So see, here he is crossing the little stream on the rocks. And here's a picture of the bed of hay where the deer had just laid. He really enjoys being outside. When spring rains came and the meadow turned to marsh, cattails stood like guards and killdeers called. Ducks nestled by marsh marigolds, and the old turtle, his shell all worn. No matter how slow, it still surprised me. So there's the cattails there. So the marsh is part of the grass. It's this grassy land, long grass, not like what we see outside our houses or in the parks, but this is all muddy here and it gets all wet. And sometimes the marshlands you can walk on, but there's a lot of marshlands you can't walk on. This reminds me of me when I used to live in Savannah, because I lived right on a marsh. The grasses were really high, and you see all different kinds of animals that you normally wouldn't see. Sometimes we climbed to the place Mama loved best. With our blueberry baskets and a chair for my grandmother, the blueberry barren where no trees grew. The sky an arm's length away, where marsh hawks skimmed over the land and bears came to eat fruit. And wild turkeys left footprints for us to find, kind of like messages. Where else, said Mama, can I see the sunrise on one side and the sunset on the other? So she's at the top of a hill. So she looked one way, she saw when the sun was coming up in the morning, and the other way where it was coming down. That was the place she liked best. My grandfather's barn is sweet-smelling and dark and cool. Leather harnesses hang like paintings against old wood, and hay dust floats like gold in the air. Grandfather once lived in a city, and once he lived by the sea. But the barn is the place he loves most. Where else, he says, can the soft sound of cows chewing make all the difference in the world? So that's my grandfather's best place, is hanging out in the barn. See the cow there? Just sticking out. Wait for you to come by and say hi. Today we wait. Him sitting on a wooden slat chair and me on the hay. Until much later my grandmother holds up a small bundle in the open window. You know what that is? Let's read on. Wrapped in a blanket made from the wool of her sheep, and my grandfather cries. Remember he did that in the beginning of the story? This is why. Somebody was born. So now Eli's with his grandfather outside waiting. Together we carve the name Sylvie in the rafter, besides the names of grandfather and grandmother and my mama and papa and me. My sister is born. So there's her name right there. And here's Grandpa getting ready to carve it in the rafter. Oops, there's another page. Someday I might live in the city, and someday I might live by the sea. But soon I will carry Sylvie on my shoulders through the fields. I will send her messages downriver in small boats, and I will watch her at the top of the hill, trying to touch the sky. I will show her my favorite place, the marsh, where ducklings follow their mother like tiny tumble of leaves. So see, this is his favorite place here. And here he is meeting his sister Sylvie for the first time. And there's a picture from the book. So in this story, all the family members told about their favorite places they live. And since we get a lot of time to spend at home now, this can give you some time to figure out what your favorite place is. I'm not sure because I have like a lot of favorite places. I like to sit on my porch like I did tonight because it was a really beautiful day. I was just sitting with my son Patrick and we were just chatting. But sometimes I like to go out into the backyard and hang out by my pool or go for a walk and hang out at the beach. Anyway, in fact, the picture in here, that's a picture of me when my boys were younger with their cousins. So, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story. That's one of my favorite ones. And I'll be seeing you guys and I'll read some more stories some other time. Take care. Good night.